As Islamists are advancing in Iraq, the country's military is trying to push the jihadists out of the city of Ramadi, and the extremists are also edging ever closer to the capital, Baghdad. This week, the jihadists had also established control over half of Syria, according to the UK-based Syria watchdog. Jihadists have also cemented their grip on the Iraq-Syria border. This video shows them after they had captured the last crossing between the two countries. Weapons and ammunition were seized from border guards, and Iraqi soldiers withdrew from the compound after Islamists overran troops just inside Syria. This as US-led airstrikes continue to pound positions in both countries, casting fresh doubts over the effectiveness of the US strategy. Washington has been bombing the terrorist group since last summer, all the while claiming the extremists are on the defensive.
American leadership, including our military power, is stopping ISIL's advance.
From what I've seen of what we're doing in Iraq today is we're pushing ISIL back, and we will push them out of Iraq ultimately.
The White House is now scrambling to respond to the very different realities on the ground and has identified a new scapegoat too to explain the advance of the jihadists in Iraq.
The Iraqi forces just showed no will to fight. They were not outnumbered. In fact, they vastly outnumbered the opposing force, and yet they failed to fight. They withdrew from the site.
Well, that was the US Defence Secretary Ashton Carter, essentially blaming Iraqi troops for letting the key city of Ramadi fall without a fight. However, security analyst Ivan Eland believes the roots of the advance of ISIL lies elsewhere.
The roots of the problem lie much deeper, and unfortunately, a lot of this was caused by the U.S. invasion and dismantlement of the original Iraqi army. The U.S. doesn't want to get involved on the ground anymore, and this bombing without U.S. forces on the ground to identify targets and stuff is not that effective. And in fact, I think it's probably counterproductive. It's creating more jihadists because they accidentally hit civilians and that sort of thing. And so I think the strategy is really flawed. The United States should, I think its policy is currently counterproductive, and it should quit what it's doing because it's making things worse with airstrikes.
Well, following setbacks in Syria and Iraq, Washington is seeking a new approach to tackling jihadists in the Middle East. It is apparently reviewing its strategy, with President Obama pushing for local Sunni tribes to be equipped and trained to go head-to-head with Islamic State. Washington is also speeding up the delivery of even more weapons to Iraqi forces. However, Islamic State is also known to have seized American-made weapons from local forces, and these pictures obtained by RT show the Iraqi army raiding a terrorist warehouse. Some of the equipment has clearly visible US markings. Well, it's not the first time American hardware has been spotted on the wrong side of the front lines. We've got some examples over here to look at. Last October, for example, Islamic State forces near the Syrian city of Kobani received an unexpected package of US-made weapons. The cash was meant for Kurdish resistance fighters, but was airdropped off course and ended up being used against the Kurds. The jihadists also use and enjoy the use of dozens of American military vehicles captured from the Iraqi army. Well, we did ask some observers why Washington's tactics have so far proven to be ineffective.
The strategy that could be successful in Iraq in terms of defeating ISIS is not simply a question of sending more weapons. There fundamentally has to be a political strategy that can win over disgruntled, alienated segments of the Iraqi Sunni community who have given up, who have been marginalized and discriminated against. And until that plan happens, then I don't think weapons by themselves are going to change the political or military equation on the ground.
Ramadi is so significant that it needs the whole of the coalition to work in consensus to retake it. But the US shows no real desire of fighting ISIS. Its airstrikes have been symbolic at best, and it has left the Iraqis to fend for themselves in what is a situation and a geopolitical conflict in which the United States helped create at the start.